Hi, I'm Brian Stevens. The product we're going to talk about today is blemish-free spam proposal. The class is going to be Internet Law and Legal Issues Online, and today's date is actually 9/5/2012. We're going to address a few topics in relationship to what we're talking about today. First one is going to be the product. Number 2 is the marketing plan. 3, spam. 4, legal issues. 5 is going to be the statistics and how people will respond. And 6, why spam? A product has come to my attention that deserves more attention than it has received in the past. In a day and time when people are obsessed with beauty products and self-conscious about nasty blemishes, one product has risen above the rest and has been marketed very poorly. It's called Blemish Free, and I personally use the product to get rid of skin tags and moles. It's not something fun to talk about, but it's a great product. It's a small compressed bottle of nitrogen-like substance, and when it's sprayed directly onto the mole or the skin tag, it will remove the blemish within a few days. It's the same FDA-approved methods doctors are using right now to do the same job, and they're overcharging by like 1,000%. I mean, it does the exact same thing, and the method, like I said, is FDA approved. There's a huge opportunity here to cash in on a market that's worldwide and affects every person on the planet. I mean, everybody gets moles and skin tags. I can market the product effectively, but I need more liquid funds than I have available. So let me tell you why I need you and how you could profit from a product like this. We need the resources to reach out to an email blasting company that specializes in sending electronic messages. I know what you're thinking. It sounds like spam, right? Let me give you a little information about sending out mass email messages. First, let's define spam. Spam is defined as unsolicited email. The definition provided by the Federal Communications Commission goes on to include that any message, regardless of the device received the message, which would include text messages on a cell phone. Okay, forget everything you've heard about spam, and let's look at the details. Mass emails can be sent out, but there is guidelines that we have to follow. The main thing being the CAN-SPAM Act. Now, most people haven't even heard of the CAN-SPAM Act. The CAN-SPAM Act requires several things, basically several regulations that the sender has to keep in mind. And we'll go over those real quick. First of all, don't send false or misleading header information. Your from, to, reply to, and routing information, including the original domain name, the email address. It must all be accurate and identify the person or the business that initiated the message. Don't use deceptive subject lines. The subject line must accurately reflect the content of the message. It's got to identify the message as an ad. The law gives you a lot of leeway in how you do this, but you must disclose clearly and conspicuously that your message is an advertisement. Number 3, tell the recipient where you're located. Your message must include your valid physical postal address. This can be your current street address, a post office box you've registered with the U.S. Postal Service, or a private mailbox you've registered with commercial mail receiving agencies established under the Postal Service regulations. Number 4, tell the recipient how to opt out of receiving future email messages from you. Your message must include clear and conspicuous explanation of how a recipient can opt out of getting into email from you in the future. Craft the notice in a way that it's easy for an ordinary person to recognize, read, and understand. Number 5, honor opt-out requests promptly. An opt-out mechanism you offer must be able to process opt-out requests for at least 30 days after you send a message. You must honor recipients' opt-out within 10 business days. You can't charge a fee. Require that the recipient to give you a personal identification information or be on an email. Nothing like that. Number 6, monitor what others are doing on your behalf. The law makes it clear that even if you hire another company to handle your email marketing, and I want to emphasize this, even if you hire someone else to do your email, you can't contract away your legal responsibility to comply with the law. Both the company whose product is promoted in this message and the company that actually sends the message may be held legally responsible. So keep that in mind if you send anything by email. And with this project, we're going to be sending things that way. So we just have to keep in mind to stick with the guidelines. Let me give you a little bit of a look at how we're going to market this product in order for this to be legal, ethical, and profitable. First off, we're going to have a landing page that captures email addresses. This is where the email blast will come in. In order for us to get the most traffic to our site in the fastest way possible, we're going to use several email blasts to build our list. While this can be a little costly, if we send it at the right time and use the right keywords effectively, we can get like sometimes in the area of 9% response rate. A couple of guidelines we're going to follow in order to get the greatest response. One, I'll be using the word secret in the subject line. According to activecommunities.com, secret is the most clicked and lead nurturing subject line in the world. Number two, we'll send it in HTML. 88% of people refer to receive HTML emails versus 12% who like plain text from companies, which depending on which email list provider we use, some of them will allow you to give your customers the option. Number three, we'll be using creative images in our email. 65% prefer emails that contain mostly images versus 35% who prefer mostly text. Number four, we'll also be sending out the majority of our emails on the weekend. Saturday has the highest click-through rate at over 9%. Sunday is second and just under 9%. We'll also check every email we send to make sure that it's in compliance with the CAN-SPAM Act, which means it's going to take a little bit. Now I'd like to address a few common myths about spam that you might hear. One of the myths is that spam gives a small result. It's small in comparison to how many emails you actually send out, but in the overall, the average response is about 2-3%. In an effective email campaign, and spam is no different. Another one of the myths is that spam is negative. People find great products every day through unsolicited email, and some of them have been in business for years. Spam can be a very welcome thing. Some people actually like to receive an odd email every now and then. One of the other myths is that spam is not ethical. Spam is not ethical? It's just like a TV ad. Even though you didn't ask for it, your movie or football game is interrupted by a TV ad and you have no choice. The great thing about spam is that one, your filter might stop it, and two, you can delete it. The great thing is that it gets you in front of people that might never find you, and spam does that affordably. Okay, so we have a product, we have a means to advertise. This is affordable, it's fast, and we can follow compliance and make it legal. Now we just have to agree on how to split the profits. But before we finish up here, let's not forget that even though the methods we follow are legal, there's a negative side. For instance, if a seller blanketed another state with spam emails, which resulted in numerous sales to residents of a particular state, it would be reasonable for the seller to assume he or she may be subject to a suit in a targeted state. So what does that mean? It means it's a great idea to be cautious about following guidelines and even checking into laws across state lines. A little spam can mean a lot of trouble if we don't follow the law. So that brings me to a few questions. One, should spam be protected by the First Amendment, freedom of speech? And I answer with this. If we have freedom of press and ads can play without warning while I'm watching TV, I think it's no different than spam. I think we should be allowed under the First Amendment to spam. As long as the person receiving the spam is allowed to set up filters and delete the message, I don't understand the problem. It's not always hacking. Sometimes it's just a reasonable method to get the information out there. Another question that we need to address is criminal liability ever appropriate for spam? Let me put it this way. It's just sending out a lot of advertisements. Somebody didn't opt in for it. Somebody didn't ask for the information. It's just sent to your email box. The guys that do this full time make a pretty decent living. However, I hardly think they should be in prison or even fined hundreds of thousands of dollars. As long as they're not fishing for information or stealing, as long as they stay in compliance with the law and allow people to opt out of their list. I hate spam, but I hardly think guys like this should be behind bars for it. Now we have to keep in mind that every website has guidelines. And if we're using the social networks like Facebook to send out spam, yes, if we're not following the guidelines, we should be penalized. That could be something as small as banning an IP address and name for using Facebook. But I don't think for sending out a solicitation, anyone should be fined or sent to jail. Once again, I'm Brian Stevens. This is my spam proposal for a product called Blemish Free, Internet Law and Legal Issues Online. Thank you.